Welcome back to geopolitics.com Insights. I'm Christopher, and with me is Amina. Today we're diving into a critical analysis straight from our frontline dispatch section, the lead section of geopolitics.com.
That's right. The article we're unpacking is titled Deconstructing U.S. Pressure Strategy and India's Strategic Dilemma, written by our editor, Rajiv Ahmed, and published on the 28th of September. And remember, geopolitics.com, making sense of the strategic world.
Nicely put. So, let's get into it. The Indian Ocean has become the stage for one of the most consequential rivalries of our time.
Exactly. And this isn't just another headline about tariffs or trade disputes. What we're looking at is a deep, multi-layered strategy from Washington that goes beyond diplomacy into something far more coercive. At stake is India's very ability to chart its own course in the multipolar order.
Right. The article we're unpacking, written by our editor, Rajiv Ahmed, and published on geopolitics.com, calls it the unspoken ultimatum. The U.S. essentially has three pathways: push India into compliance, force regime change if that fails, and, as a last resort, encourage fragmentation. That's a pretty stark playbook.
And let's be clear, this isn't a new Cold War cliché. This is the lived reality of a democracy of 1.4 billion people being told, in effect, fall in line, or else. Just think back to September 2025, when the Trump administration slapped a 50% tariff on Indian exports. That wasn't just economics. That was a message.
Absolutely. It hit more than half of India's $87 billion worth of goods going to the U.S. Textiles, jewelry, autos, chemicals, all vital industries. And they didn't stop there. A $100,000 fee for each H-1B visa and a 100% tariff on patented medicines. Each measure was carefully calibrated to inflict pain.
But notice what they spared: generics and electronics. Washington still needs those Indian capabilities. That's what makes this pressure so surgical. On one hand, it destabilizes livelihoods in Gujarat or Tamil Nadu. On the other, it leaves just enough space for New Delhi to think, if we comply, maybe the pain eases.
Which brings us to the second option: regime change. If tariffs don't break you, maybe politics will. And here's where it gets murkier: the manipulation of information. India, already ranked as one of the most vulnerable countries to disinformation, finds itself exposed. Even Peter Navarro's offhand comment about Brahmins profiteering was enough to spark domestic unrest.
And this is where the human impact really shows. 50% tariffs mean fewer orders for textiles, and that translates to millions of workers facing uncertainty. Imagine the ripple effect: families struggling, communities destabilizing, and political discontent brewing. That's not abstract strategy. That's real human suffering.
Add to that diplomatic isolation. The U.S. signs a preferential trade deal with Pakistan, lowering tariffs to 19%. That shifts the regional equation immediately. It tells India, your rival gets benefits while you get punished.
And if all else fails, the most extreme path comes into play: balkanization. Now, Rajiv rightly points out that fragmentation is unlikely in the near term. India's institutions and unity are resilient. But the very fact that Washington can amplify separatist narratives through social media, cyber tools, and identity politics is chilling. Think of Kashmir, Punjab, or the Northeast. These aren't hypotheticals. They're pressure points.
And don't forget the regional encirclement. Washington revives ties with Pakistan, deepens its role in Bangladesh's post-2024 transition, and invests in Sri Lanka's democratic consolidation. Nepal, too, is pulled into this game. Step by step, India's neighborhood becomes less predictable and more constraining.
Which forces New Delhi into strategic overstretch. West with Pakistan, north with China, east with Bangladesh and Myanmar, and maritime vulnerabilities in the Indian Ocean. Plus, energy dependence now tied to U.S. influence supply chains in the Gulf. That's a suffocating squeeze.
India isn't without resilience. Diversifying exports, $25 billion redirected to the UK, EU, and the UAE, defending its Russian oil imports by pointing to Europe's own purchases, strengthening BRICS Plus and SCO ties, even leveraging the China Plus One supply chain shift to attract new investment.
And let's not forget India's domestic resilience. Yes, there are divisions, but there's also a strong democratic consensus on national unity. That makes outright fragmentation hard to imagine. But resilience doesn't mean invulnerability. Structural issues, inequality, poverty, center-state tensions remain fertile ground for manipulation.
So where does this leave us? The U.S. is running a high-stakes gamble. They're betting that India will fold under pressure. But history tells us India has a habit of enduring pain to preserve autonomy.
And that's the dilemma. Compliance means dependency. Resistance means hardship. The middle path, enduring some costs while diversifying, is where India seems to be heading. But make no mistake, this is the toughest strategic test since independence.
For our listeners, here's the key takeaway. The U.S.-India relationship has moved from partnership to pressure. What India decides next won't just shape its own future, it will determine Asia's balance of power in the 21st century.
And perhaps the bigger question is, can great powers learn to coexist without coercion? Or are we doomed to see every partnership reduced to leverage and pressure?
So where does this leave us? The United States is running a high-stakes gamble, betting India will bend. But India's long history of safeguarding autonomy suggests this won't be easy.
And that's the dilemma New Delhi faces. Compliance risks dependency, resistance brings hardship, and the middle path means calculated endurance. It's the toughest strategic test since independence, with consequences that go far beyond India itself.
On that note, we'll wrap up. Today's episode was based on the article Deconstructing U.S. Pressure Strategy and India's Strategic Dilemma, written by Rajiv Ahmed, editor of geopolitics.com, and published under our Frontline Dispatch section on the 28th of September, 2025.
And as always, geopolitics, making sense of the strategic world.
Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll explore China's hydropolitical strategy in South Asia. Until then, take care and keep thinking strategically.